Hello all, Dr. Jeff here with Jim Case, my esteemed colleague in Adventures in Truth podcast. How are you, Jim?
Dr. Jeff, I am well, thank you. How are you?
Marvelous.
Good. Good to see
Another
you.
another adventure that I've been looking forward to and taking with you and with our audience this week. I find that throughout the week I'm motivated and finding things to hold on to and ponder and talk about that we can share with each other. If you and I are the only ones having this discussion and watching here, it has continued to be my pleasure and stretching my own awarenesses and expanding my own perceptions on thought and truth and just wellness, I guess, overall. So we're looking to dive in here again. And tonight or this afternoon, wherever you are, this morning, if you're on the other side of the planet, whenever you're listening to this, wanting to weave some kind of a discussion in truth about desire this afternoon. It's in my world, it's afternoon, so I'm going to keep referencing that. Desire is a really interesting notion. In just this week, in my practice, I may have somewhere between 25 and 40, depending upon a slow week or a busy week, people that come through my door, most of which are expressing some level of content or some level of discontent with regard to their desires on what they're experiencing. And desire is a really to me, it's a very interesting notion. Mm-hmm. And when people say, I desire this, or I desire that, or I don't desire this or that, I ask them to pause for a moment, hold their thought, as I'm asking everybody right now to do. Just imagine what you desire. What do you desire right now with regard to employment, occupation, location that you're living, lifestyle that you desire, partners that you would like, any and everything that would fall into the category of the way that you would choose to have an experience on the planet, we would put into the category of what do you desire? The core philosophy, or if you're really willing to get nuts for a moment, is in beyond just my opinion, well beyond my opinion, and my opinion would come from learned folk here and there that we've gathered ideas and thoughts from and we resonate with, and then that becomes a notion or a thought. But the core philosophy behind desire is, drum roll here, this is a big one.
Drum roll coming.
We have and we are living with what we desire. We have what we desire right now. We have what we desire. Okay. And most people right now are willing to hit the stop button and say, that can't possibly be true. There's no way that the crap I'm going through, the stress I'm dealing with, the blankety blank blank I'm in relationship with or whatever is what I desire. And I'm like, okay, I got all that. Hold on though. Let's open this up and move into this a little bit farther. So again, people like Plato, people like Socrates, it goes back a ways. This notion of desire, certainly people have pondered this sooner than Jim and I have this afternoon, and are sharing it with others. It's been thought about a few times before, but the core notion behind desire is that we actually are living in what we desire. We've created this, and not many people are willing to be accountable and responsible for that which we have created. Mm-hmm. In previous podcasts, we've talked about, do you see yourself in the universe as one who is experiencing things that are happening to you, things that are happening by you, or for you? So it's to you, for you, or by you is the sequence that you can see how you're moving through this experience. And if it's happening to you, then you're playing the role of the victim. If it's happening for you, then you're playing the role of the student, which is a step up from the victim. If you see the things in your world happening by you, then you're playing the role of the co-creator or the creator of your own experiences as you're gathering these experiences to be part of the allness or the oneness that at some point reports back to source or reports back to God or something. The great white buffalo, we've said that a few times before, of what did you learn from this opportunity that we call life here on this planet? So before we parlay back and forth, I just want to move a little bit further into this, that the notion, the basic philosophy is that we are living the things that we desire. But before we can actually like resonate with that and grab onto that, we have to go back and peel apart this. When I say I, what I desire, I am three parts of mind: conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. And that we've talked before about how the division of mind, according to people that have spent their whole life's work and studying other people who it was their whole life's work, believe that the division of mind works somewhere in as little as 5% conscious to as much as 18% conscious. And then the other part, a division between subconscious and unconscious processing. So somewhere between maybe as much as 95% of the mind could be subconscious, unconscious processing, and maybe as little as 82%. But regardless of whether it's 82 or 95, it's the freaking big part that is I, that is I. And when people say that which I desire, that's a part that you have, that we have, that I have a really difficult time, hard time getting into, that's really running the show. It's that part of our mind that's really running our show. It's those core beliefs. It's those scripts. It's those urges, instincts, genetics, memetics that is truly driving our decision making and our steps. Left foot, right foot, open this door, go through that door, is where our real desires come from. And those are based on belief systems. So you could consciously say, I desire to live a life more like what I imagine Paris Hilton to be living, or Charlie Sheen, or pick your favorite rock star or movie star or humanitarian or whatever. You could say that consciously, which again would represent a small portion of the mind. And so when we are really ready to look at we're living what we truly desire, then we can say, well, if I'm really in this shit show or this drama factory or this struggle or toil or strain or whatever, it must be because that's what I believe I really deserve, or that's what I believe is right for me or is safe for me, or a whole host of other thought processes. And when we're really willing to go inside and dig into that, then that can free us up to truly move into more of a conscious processing of the things that we say that could then match up with what we do and what we actually experience. But until we're ready to do that, many people come into my office and tell me this is what they want, but this is what they do, and not knowing why they do what they do. And again, that's coming from that subconscious, unconscious processing part, that's what they really believe. And until we're willing to reprogram and dispel those core beliefs about I'm unworthy, I don't deserve, these are the consequences of my actions, or even if you want to get biblical for a moment and say, oh, these are the sins from the seventh generation passed down from crap my father did. Some people believe that they're experiencing the results of 7 generations before actions that they didn't even know those people. That's a thing, by the way. If you want to look it up, you can check it out. But it really comes down to
oneself.
What do you believe? What do you believe? All right. I rambled on long enough, Jim. I hope that there's enough. I cast a wide enough net that we can go anywhere with that.
Oh, you're so done now, dude. I'm going to bury you right now. So let's lay a foundation. So this is a great topic because desire, I think, is highly distorted and very confusing for people. And it's not as confusing as I think we make it. And here's why. So the basis of everything in our experience is what I'm going to call core vibration. Okay. You called it 17 different things. I'm calling it core vibration. Okay. Because all of those things make no difference to most people. It's more mind, and nothing against it. Please don't understand. I'm not trying to put it down. I'm just clarifying that while it's interesting, it's better to be interesting in hindsight than it is to be interesting in the middle of it, because it's a great way to get very confused and a great way to mind fuck every piece of it rather than keeping it simple. Core vibration. What I mean by that, if you say you have a desire, the way that you can determine how that desire is unfolding in your experience is you open your eyes and you look at the world in front of you and you see how your desire is unfolding. If your desire is not unfolding in the way that you believe it should, it's because your core vibration is not in alignment with the thing you're calling a desire.
Mm-hmm.
So this ties back to what you and I have talked about and a basis of work that you spent a lot of years working on, which is clearly defining what is a desire versus what is a want. Being like Paris Hilton is a want. There's nothing in the planet that has anything to do with the desire to be like Paris Hilton. It doesn't exist, because desire comes from the soul level, want comes from the ego level, in the way that we're bringing it out. So to me, it's core vibration. We move through life. One of the things that they talk about in Law of Attraction that I think is very powerful is the idea that contrast stimulates clarity about what we want, and in clarity about when we find out what we want, we then understand what we don't want. But when we focus on what we don't want, we create more of it.
Yeah.
If we focus on what we do want, we create more of it. But the whole important part of it is that the desire is born of the contrast. It's born of the experience of living life. It's not born sitting in a room drumming up a list of I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, or I desire this, I desire this. That's a nice exercise to maybe help clear some of the mind clutter. But to your point about consciousness, one of the things I believe absolutely, and I believe very strongly, is that the whole purpose of becoming conscious, the whole purpose of transformation is moving that needle from 5% conscious to 7% conscious to 10% conscious to 15% conscious. And that's done by tuning into the I that you were speaking of, the I, the larger part of who we are. So it's expanding as you expand consciousness, you connect more directly to that larger part of yourself. And from that, you can then tap into desire, because desire, I don't think it's as specific as I want a car, I want a house, I want a dog, I want a boyfriend. I think those are the ego translations of the experience that desire is seeking. Because desire is the soul, to me, desire is the soul's motivation in the realm of time and space. It's the soul's motivation to evolve that creates desire, because you're seeing the world through the five senses, and as you experience what you want and what you don't want, it builds a desire in the soul to say, I want that experience, this experience, let's create this experience. And then if we get too caught up in the hows, we diverge paths. So we start in this beautiful place of I and the connectedness, and I have a desire, and then we immediately want to get into how we deal with that. How do I get there from here? As soon as you do, you then have to break it down into the components of the ego, and now you're no longer going after the desire. So you focus on the components of the ego, and what shows up in your world is something that's different from the desire that you thought you had. So you got this going on. So that's the time, to me, when you take a step back and you go, wow, apparently I'm missing something in my own equation, because I thought I desired this and what's showing up is this. So what's in the way? Where can I put my attention now to help diffuse that separation that I'm experiencing between what the ego thinks it wants and the soul desires? Language. Oh, so language becomes really important because you have to be able to translate. And actually, I don't even know if you have to translate the desire so much. I'll have to stay with that for a little while. But so that's my first foray on the on our round one. So that's kind of how I see it, what I experience of it. I was looking up a definition for it too to see if that would help bring to light anything interesting.
Looking at the definition of desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conscious impulse towards something that promises enjoyment or satisfaction in its attainment. And so, I mean, I am differentiating in a way probably different than most. Most people go, because I don't think desire is a word that we use consistently in our own in the English language as a way of speaking. It's hard. How many times have you heard somebody say, "Gosh, I really desire X"? Like next to never, because it's not that kind of an experience. So it's interesting that even in the definition, if the definition that they show was actually the true definition, you would think the word would be used much more regularly than it is.
Right.
But it isn't. What's used is want. I want. I want to achieve. I want to build. I want to whatever. Not my desire. Because my desire is a space. Desire is an experience to me.
Well, if people that do use the word desire use it in reference to something that is desirable.
Yes, good point.
And you don't hear people say, that's a really wantable thing I want to experience, right?
But isn't it interesting that if they use the word desirable, isn't it usually attached to an experience they want to have?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So like, that's a desirable job, or that's a desirable house to live in, or desirable person, or, whatever. I was hoping we could push into this idea, this concept you're sharing with us of the difference between ego and soul spirit, what an egoic want or desire would be, and what a soul spirit want or desire would be, as you were distinguishing between the two of them a few minutes ago, that sometimes there's a split between the two of them.
Yeah, well, I think that and we can plumb this one a little bit, but in an interesting sort of way, as a human being, it seems like to me, like ultimately we're here to support the soul's growth and evolution. That's what this spark is here for, to experience, ultimately to experience. So as the little human is running around the planet, touching things and tasting things and seeing things and smelling things and hearing things, there are ideas and thoughts that are sparked as a result of that. And mostly I think it's just random clips, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's nice. That would feel good. That would be interesting. That might be cool. How fun would that be? Kind of experiences. And that stimulation, that enthusiasm or excitement stimulates in the soul a desire to understand that experience in a greater capacity. So it's that whole idea that in the law of attraction, it's like attracts like. So it works on both ends of the spectrum, because if your thoughts and ideas are negative, but they're energetically strong negatively, then the desire is going to be for that creation to show up so that it can better understand that creation. Right? So that's why there's no differentiation between good, bad, right, and wrong. It's just experiences, and they can be positive or negative, but that's driven off of the individual's core vibration. The core vibration being, I'm going to define the core vibration is the point of integration between the soul and the ego. So to the degree that the ego is integrated into the soul's experience, the experience of desire expands. To the degree of the ego separation from the soul experience, then you have the ego expanding, and then you have the wants and the needs and the gimmies and the things that drive the ego. So it becomes much more about small s self satisfaction and self indulgence, as opposed to big S self engagement.
So, if you don't mind, if we could back up a few thoughts. You talked about coming to the planet as a soul, having this body that we live in with a personality and a mind and a brain that we would, some of that you would call ego. In my studies and understanding of ego, it's something that we almost don't need any longer, in that its primary purpose, as we understand it or have come to know it, is it's wonderful for keeping us alive. It's wonderful for surviving in a place of limited resource.
Yeah.
Meaning that if I have to, I'll take it from you in order to survive. And even in the classroom with little kids, if I have to take your dignity and to preserve my own, I'll tease you, I'll bully you in order to get the attention, if attention was a limited resource that I thought was taking place. Or if I'm not getting it home, I can create it in the classroom or create it on the school grounds by being a bully to get the attention that I'm not getting elsewhere. And I don't mind taking it from you because I'm in survival mode. And of course, as kids, we know that, you know, the brain doesn't finish maturing for most people until age 25. So that neocortex or prefrontal cortex part, the higher brain part, isn't fully wired and bundled and firing and perceiving and processing until a much later age. So kids are very vicious with each other, and they are very self-serving, and it is all about them, which would really be ego. So there could be a time in our evolution, there could be a density or dimension that we might be moving toward or into at some point, where we're living with the notion that there aren't limited resources, that there's as much as we need and enough for everybody, that we really don't have to be operating in an egoic percentage of ego here. But until then, it is where we are. It is what is. And it's interesting to me that without this body, without the senses, the experiences wouldn't be possible that we come here to have.
Right.
If there are angels, if there are spirit guides, if there are, in the Bible it talks about Melchizedek, in the Bible it talks about men of old, and I'm sorry if I only can reference that as a sacred text because it's really one of the only ones that I've studied, other than perhaps A Course in Miracles, or I'm kind of into this Law of One now. But, you know, I don't know the Quran. I don't know, you know, some of the Indian, and I don't mean North American Indian, but I mean from India. I don't know that. I'm not a, you know, scholar in those ancient texts, but I do know at least 35 sacred texts that all reference entities and energies of being that are in existence, that don't have a human body, that don't take on a physical manifestation, that we came here and have done, that we're in that place. And without this body, without the ego, we couldn't have these experiences of learning to love and learning to understand and learning to appreciate, and also be willing to murder, and in what circumstances. And you know, I mean, that sounds weird, but being willing to be on a planet where all those things take place can be very confusing and overwhelming. A lot of the people that I see every day, I could diagnose them with one simple word: overwhelmed. Just flat out overwhelmed. Too much
Well,
stimulation.
yeah, and that's something I want to throw in the mix here because and this is not born of conspiracy theory. This is the reality that I observe in our world, and that is, to your point, the way that I look at the ego is that it is the consciousness that's born of being physical. It is the consciousness that runs the physical vessel and keeps it on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is that there are those that have discovered that when you manipulate the ego, you control the human. And what I mean by that is if you look at anything that's occurring in our current reality, anything that's occurring, you see all of it is playing to the ego. It's a constant stimulation of the fight or flight mechanism as a way of managing and controlling how people think, how people feel, what they buy, what they eat, what they look at, what they go to everything that they do. And it's a bit of a mind control experiment of sorts, in a way, but it's not so much an experiment because it's executing every single day. I watch periodically. I'll tap into looking at the news to see kind of what the threads are. What is it that they're going on about now, and it's the same, different stories, but it's the same thing over and over and over again. You should be afraid. You should be concerned. You should be up in arms. You should be angry. You have nothing you can do about this. You have a president who's a fucking lunatic. You can't do anything about it. Sorry about it. But we're going to continue to tell you how horrible it is, and we're going to continue to show you all of the illegal and stupid things that are being done, and we're going to continue to show you how afraid of your world you should be. And all that does is lock us further and further into that ego experience, because you cannot, period, end of sentence, cannot create what you want from that space ever. It will not happen. And that's, I think, part of what drives that whole dynamic. Because if people aren't thinking and people aren't creating and people aren't investing in understanding their core vibration, in how do I show up in the world and how can I show up in the world differently, which is not about did I vote yesterday, and it could have something to do with that, but that's not what the bottom line is, because that's still part of their game. That's still part of the broader perspective game of engagement. It doesn't mean you can't find your lane and choose to cast your energy in a direction that will help move the consciousness of human beings in a different direction. But if you continue to play in that game, and it's okay, we all do, we all have, we all will. But understand that in order to not play that game, you have to completely disengage from that game. You can't play part of it and not play the other part of it. You can't agree that yes, the Democrats are bad people and the Republicans are good people. You can't have that judgment, because that's not a broader perspective. That's an ego perspective. So there to me is so much training and end training that goes on a daily basis through all of the media stuff that we get pumped full of, whether it's the music you're listening to on the radio. And again, I'm not saying this stuff for you to be afraid of it. I'm saying it so you can start to be conscious of how it's impacting you. I'm going to take a second to use an example, because this was really profound for me a while back. So as a part of driving, you have music on in the car. And
I've heard people do that.
Yeah, so your passengers can enjoy some tunes while they're in there, and sometimes they ask for specific tunes, but largely you put on a station and that's what you listen to all day or however long you're driving. So when I was still in San Diego, I picked up a young man by the college over at SDSU, and we were going on like a 30-minute ride. And he jumped in the car, and I had been listening to, for the previous 3 or 4 months at that point that I had been driving, listening to top 40 music. Actually, it's probably more like 6 or 8 months. Listening to top 40, just have it down low in the background, not thinking of it. He got in the car and he changed the station to a station I didn't know existed, which was the jazz station in San Diego, which is an amazing station, by the way. It's commercial free. It's 24 hours. It's a really good station. Anyway, it's publicly funded. Anyhow, he turns the station on, and in the course of the 30 minutes that it took for me and this passenger to drive to the next location, I observed a radical physical change in how I was acting behind the wheel of the car. And I was floored because my shoulders relaxed, my arms relaxed, I sat up, and I stopped being aggressive. And I went, what the heck is that about? And as I sat with it for a little while longer, I realized, oh my gosh, I've been letting this top 40 music cycle run through my head for multiple hours a day while I'm driving, right? Nonstop. I'm hearing about, you hurt me, you don't love me, you do love me, you don't want me, you like me, you don't like me, I'm too fat, whatever all that crap is, right? And it's going on all day long. Suddenly, I don't have any of that energy anymore. And the thing that's fascinating, one, is I've never changed it again. The first thing I did when I moved to Denver was I sought out the jazz station in Denver, and they have one just like they have in San Diego. It's commercial free. It's 24 hours. It's, it's all of that. And the other thing that's been very interesting is that since I made that conscious decision not to engage that energy, the experiences that people have in my car are different, and they don't ask me to change the music. In 75 to 80% of the cases, people comment specifically on getting out of the car saying, really love the music, or they get in the car and go, oh, I love jazz, or something to that effect. And then they immediately relax and they hang out in the car, and it's a great thing, but it's a very real, very palpable thing. So the reason for the example was just a demonstration of how important it is to get conscious about those things, to be aware of how radically it alters your vibration. When I didn't know it, it wasn't until the mind showed up in my car that I'd heard the concept. I had my teacher for years beat me up about it. Why do you listen to that crap? Stop listening to that crap. It's not helping you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I like it. I like to sing. I like to dance. I like to move. I want to be engaged. But the difference being now, when I engage it, I can engage it from a different perspective, because I'm not trying to get into that wheel. I'm not trying to get into that room. I can let it wash over me, and I can still have that fun. And then I can feel when my energy goes, yeah, enough. And then I can go change the channel again. You know what I mean? I can do something different, but I can enjoy it for a minute. It doesn't mean it's not having an impact, but it's not having the impact it used to have, because I'm not buying into that. I'm not so lost on Taylor Swift that her every word she sings, is all about the relationships I'm having. No. No. So it's again, this core vibration idea, that paying attention to how these things affect us, because they have an effect, and we can pretend that they don't, or we can talk ourselves into believing that, it doesn't bother me. But then, and when you stop and take a look at how your desires are showing up in your world, and they're like this, trust me, it has everything to do with that. So,
what did you mean by that hand movement?
Oh, two different places. You're at one, your desires over here, and you're at your core vibration is here. If this is happening, you're not creating what you think you're creating.
Can you give some examples of that?
Oh my goodness. Let's see here. So I'll have to think on that for a sec. I have lots of. Give me a minute on that one.
Okay.
Because because I don't have like right there.
Okay. I've got a couple of examples.
Great.
Anecdotally, there was a gentleman in my office today that we were having this discussion, and he's on a 1-year sabbatical from a previous employer to find work for his next employment. And he says consciously, I really want to go back to work. I'm about halfway through this 1-year severance that I got, and I've enjoyed it, but I'm really feeling the need to get back to work. But I'm really frustrated with myself because I'm not doing the work to get back to work.
That's what you
So,
don't want to do.
yeah, exactly. So I asked him to be honest with himself and say, it sounds like you're really enjoying this period of your life, perhaps for the first time in your 50s, that you haven't had to work. And the resources are still coming to you, that you have the ability to support your lifestyle without having to do this thing called work every day. And you're getting a chance to sleep more than you used to and spend time with your wife more than you used to, and just enjoy where we live and what's around us. So could you be honest with yourself and say that what you're experiencing really is what your desire is, not to work? And so he's like, well, yeah, but no. And I'm like, well, yeah, exactly, yes, but no. So yes, you can resonate with the truth is you're not filling out the job applications and submitting resumes, right? You're actually not doing that, because that would actually lead at some point to going back to work again.
Or potentially not. And that's important, because that's a double-edged sword. Because what you can find out is you could submit all those applications to get 0 responses.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your core vibration is. Your core vibration is, no, I don't want to work those jobs. So you're
Right.
like, So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So you got just a little bit ahead of me, which is fine.
Sorry.
No, we're tracking. We're thinking, along the same lines there, that, what really seems to be showing up for him here is the opportunity to work, but to do it in a different field or do it in a different way. And that's what, the split between ego and spirit in this case, the way you described it, is showing up, where his ego is really freaking out because there's no income coming in. And he knows that, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months. Oh my gosh, I can't make the mortgage payment this month because there's no income. And the idea of doing more of the same may satisfy ego, but is impulses from spirit, soul, or no, we really don't want to work in corporate America the way we used to, and be tied to the clock and everything else, and all about what's good for the shareholders, not necessarily good for the customer or good for the planet. That's an old script that he's in the process of bringing into consciousness to let go of and to evolve. So what we were talking about is, maybe this is an opportunity to explore what other education might you need to move in a different direction, or maybe even move out of corporate America and move into more of nonprofit America. And, sure, the pay is going to be half, but pay is only a part of the compensation that comes from what you're doing. If you could feel better about what you're doing, and there's a lot of benefit that comes there as well. So it's just an interesting conversation for him to acknowledge that what he's experiencing right now today is his desire, which is not to go back to work. And when I say go back to, I'm talking about the way he was working, or in the environment he was working in. So he's actually...
This is a no retreading zone.
Hopefully, right? Hopefully it's
may I add some perspective that I'm seeing as you're talking?
Sure.
This example is awesome because it demonstrates one of the things that I was talking about, in that we don't live in a vacuum, and we tend to forget that where we are is a result of the momentum we created in the past. So that momentum drove us. And so he has a year under his belt of experiencing a stress-free kind of experience, or a much reduced stress type of experience. That has a momentum, and it has borne in it desires. The challenge and the problem, or challenge or problem, depending on how you want to look at it, is when the ego shows up, it throws up kind of this wall between the desire and the world, because it's saying, I'm not safe. Boom. And so we attend to this in front of our face thinking it's important, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
We think that this is important. It's not.
Right.
You spend a year generating momentum to understand yourself more deeply, to understand your desires and wants, to understand your feelings, to understand who you are in the world now that you're not doing that thing. And the soul is not going to have a desire for you to retread anything. The soul had that experience. It's done. That's why you're in this transitional space.
Right.
So how can you utilize all of that energy to create a new momentum that allows you to stay in the space of less stress or even less stress and be fulfilled?
Right.
Because our minds can't grasp the idea that we could feel this comfortable and not be stressed out of our minds. There's a duality that exists there, because I didn't say that correctly. He only has 1 year of experience not being in that environment. So however many years of experience he spent building that momentum, he's now taken a year unraveling that momentum and creating some new momentum. That's where all of his energy should be, and should not attend to any of the old momentum at all. At all. Like, no thought of corporate America, no thought of anything that has to do with working for someone else, because that's not where his vibration is anymore. It could be that over time he will come to a place where he'll find a balance where he could work in that venue, but his core vibration will be so radically different that he won't approach it from where he came from before. But he's got to nurture what he built this year, to how I see it. But that was something really strong I wanted to say, because it's important, I think, for the listeners and the viewers too, to understand that you can't chunk it out. It's continuous experience. It's continuous evolution. It does everything we do. You did something today. The thing you did today is not born of the minute that you did it. It's born of so many things and so many decisions and so many ideas and thoughts that could go back lifetimes. But
right.
we don't have access to all of that right now. So all you can do is go with that gauge of, is my energy lifting or is my energy settling? And if it's lifting, I want to focus there. I may not know, again, we're back to how. I may not know how it's going to look, but I don't have to. I like this feeling. I want more of this experience, more of this desire. I want this to go like, remember you and I talked about when the downloads that you kind of push into an area and it expands. It's no different for every human being. When you get conscious of it, it's no different. You go, oh, wow, I want to feel this more. And you go, oh, why do I want to feel? Oh, because I feel so empowered. And you go, bing, oh, that's what empowerment is? Cool. And then you get to have all of this expanded experience of empowerment.
Right.
And carrying it onward. Sorry, that was meant to be short and I got long-winded. So, but I think the point, I hope I made the point clearly anyway. And I hope I didn't derail where you were going. It wasn't my intention.
No train wreck.
Yeah. So where is he now in the scheme of things? How is he evolving with this idea that you're presenting to him?
Well, it was a new paradigm of, or maybe not new, but just an acknowledgement of the truth is we are experiencing that which we desire.
Yeah.
And the challenge is to go inside that subconscious, unconscious place and looking at the core beliefs that we have around the lives and the place that we're in our lives right now. If somebody's thinking that they really want to do X, but they're still living in a Y experience, it's because they believe the Y is all they deserve, or there's so many limiting beliefs, or it's too scary. You don't know what you're doing over there in X. Why would you do that? You don't have any experience over there. Or who do you think you are that you could be X now? You come from a family of why.
Yeah,
So there's when we are
that's
willing to
good.
explore that, then we can change it. But I think it was maybe an awakening or aha moment for this gentleman to consider that he actually has what he desires right now. It's safe, and it serves him to stay where he is until he doesn't want to be there, and he's willing to go in and poke around at that and explore the chains, the ropes, the
Mhm.
bindings that we create for ourselves to keep us where we are, to play it safe. I remember in the session we were talking about, you know, the things that we remember most, or if we use the a boat mentality or a ship mentality, that when when you go out to sea, there are storms. When you go out to sea, there are amazingly beautiful days. Uh, but the safest thing to do is to never go out to sea and just leave your ship tied up to the harbor or tied up to the dock and never go anywhere. You can still get on it and enjoy the harbor life, but that really
And
isn't.
still say you have a boat.
Yeah. But the things that make us, if you go out to sea a few times and you have some really amazing experiences and some really scary experiences, those are the ones that you remember. And most people don't remember anything about being tied up to the harbor because it's not worth remembering. It's completely unmemorable.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that's where most of us are, is we're sitting down in front of our TVs watching Netflix at night, living somebody else's life, living somebody else's fantasy or their script, and we've given up on our own. I really, really see that so much now with the wide variety of choices that we have to be entertained, that we're not actually having our own experiences. That's not a healthy thing. That's not healthy at all. Please don't hear me go all or
Well,
nothing on this and badmouth Netflix. I'm not. I enjoy an occasional stimulation of that too, but to do it to the excess that uh, people are doing it, and we're talking about hours and hours and hours per day.
well, now, yeah, now you're talking about resistance. Now you're talking about avoidance, and that's a whole different animal. And that's an active. It's a passively active form of resistance. um,
Well,
because the
what I
contrast that you're experiencing. Go ahead.
well, what that means to me, the passively active form of resistance, is I can have that experience vicariously through someone else's acting in a show, and because the conscious mind is the only part of the mind that knows what's real and what's not real, is I can watch that on TV screen, and only 5 to 18% of my mind knows that that's an actor or actress, not me. The rest of my mind is having that experience that we're watching on the show.
Mhm. Yeah, but the proof is still in the pudding because, like I was saying before, as you become more conscious, two couple things happen. As you become more aware of your vibration and your core vibration, you become aware of how things impact it, and you also become a much more conscious of how you engage the energy of that thing, whatever it is. So there comes a point where, and in our previous podcast, we talked about the universe doesn't give a crap what you do, because it doesn't. There isn't a judgment about any of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
how do you engage your energy. So there's nobody sitting over you going, oh, don't watch that television because it's going to mess with your mind. But here's the deal. And again, I'll use an example. I was when we had the center in Arizona. Um, there was a period of time where we would we might get together for an hour or something, and we were watching a movie. And this happened actually pretty consistently for a while. So we would either rent a movie or we'd go to the movies. And at some point in the movie, my energy would completely change. And by the time the movie was over, I was a raging lunatic. I mean, I may not be like running around screaming and yelling, but all it would take would be to like breathe in my direction, and I would snap at somebody, or I would get impatient, or I would be frustrated, or I would just get into a funk. And for the longest time, literally for months, I didn't get it. I'm like, I don't understand what is going on here. And my mentor was like, you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You sit on the couch, you watch this thing, you let it affect you, and then you take it out on everybody else around you because you don't know how to handle the energy, what the energy is, and it doesn't serve anything. She said the bottom line is the only thing you need to do to change that situation is get off the couch.
Yeah.
That's it. Get up and walk out of the room. Because and it took me, I swear to you, it took at least a year for me to get to the place where I could do that without feeling stupid. Like, why would I get up and leave? That's just, I paid money for that rental, or I paid for the movie. We just spent $30 on popcorn and movies. Why would I walk out? To this day, and actually more often than not, I will walk out of movies. If within the first 10 or 15 minutes I feel that, I'm out, because I don't want to feel that. Because once I stay there for 2.5 hours and let that impact me like that, now I have days of unwinding to do instead of an hour of unwinding to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure.
So it's important. It's so important in recognizing that sometimes it's nothing more than get off the couch. It's get up and do something different, because what this is doing to your energy, you're going to suffer for whatever period of time it takes you to disconnect from all that illusion, disconnect from all of that energy that wasn't yours, disconnect from all the things you were talking about, where you see them on the screen doing X, Y, and Z. The mind doesn't differentiate. So suddenly you're having feel experiences that aren't yours and never were. You're trying to solve for X, except X isn't yours. It's an energy you took on because you decided I'm going to watch a movie, and you opened up your field and said, okay, I'm all in. I love Transformer movies. Do me, baby. And it does. And by the end of it, you could feel like a superhero, or you could feel like an evil villain. You could feel whatever you want to feel completely, but none of it's your energy. And you're going to spend the next number of hours and days getting rid of that vibration to get back to what your core vibration is. And why go through all that? Why not notice it at the beginning and go, ooh? But that's part of that let's get conscious process. It's part of that whole deal, is that it takes time, it takes repetition, it takes consistency. We don't always, I know I didn't always get it right, because I really wanted to see that movie. I've been waiting for that movie for a year, or I wanted to do that activity, whatever it was. But again, it's just so important that we understand that core vibration. How is it impacting? What is it bringing to my energy, into my field? Is it bringing something useful, or is it bringing stuff I have to attend to? And I don't like the stuff I have to attend to, because I got enough going on. I don't want to attend to something else.
Yeah, that reminds me of a podcast we did a while back where we laid out the truth regarding when we attend to what we intend. In that moment, we can manifest what we desire. That actually sounded pretty nice.
That was good.
So attending to our intentions will manifest that which we desire.
Which is all about saying, manage your energy. I mean, it's a beautiful way to say it, because it ties into all of the concepts that we're talking about, and what a lot of people in the consciousness world talk about. Mm-hmm. So it's a beautiful statement. I love it.
There was another session I did not long ago where I was doing a couples counseling session, and the couple had been working together in a nonprofit, and one thing led to another, and she left, but then she came back, and the board of directors is going slower than what the couple desires to reinstate her at her original position. They're amenable to her returning to the organization, and over time it seems as though they're going to return her to a position of authority in the organization, but it's just not as fast or swift as what they both desire. What's interesting is she's feeling depressed and anxious as a result of the speed at which all of this is unfolding, not
Mm.
realizing that it's necessary for it to go at the pace that it's going, and particularly because they can't control it. There's a board of directors, there's other people involved in the decision-making process of, well, wait a second, you left a while ago, and we kind of have some idea of why it unraveled and what would keep that from happening again. So, there's some logic behind the board feeling
Hmm.
their way through reinstatement. But the interesting part was her feeling of despair, guilt, reluctance, shame, failure was all tied in the story that she was telling herself that, went way back to childhood. It was just the same story. It's exactly the same story.
Yeah.
But this time around, it's the board of directors rather than mom and dad or teachers or some other authority figure. What was interesting that I found myself asking in session was that she had admitted to feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, sad, discontent. And I asked her straight up, I said, it seems like you're really committed to that. And she didn't get it at first. And so I said again, it really seems like you're committed to feeling the way that you're feeling. And then I got the kind of the, huh, sideways look. I
Yeah.
said, well, it is choice. It's all choice based on the story that you're telling yourself. For example, I could tell the story that you left, and usually in organizations of this size and stature, when you leave, the door closes and you don't come back, especially if it was in a major position of authority place. And
Hmm.
you actually were only gone a year, and to think about reinstatement, a year for you may be a long time, but for everybody else is just like yesterday. And so I said, the fact that we're even having this conversation is actually a very positive affirmation of your likely return to a place that you once were. But there have to be some assurances and uh, some milestones reached before you get the thumbs up from everybody. But just the fact that we're having this conversation looks like things are leaning in the direction of which you desire. But you could tell yourself the story that it's too slow, they may not, I don't like the legalities or the what they call optics and all of this or whatever. But it's like, well, your feeling is based on the story that you're telling yourself right now. And what made me think of that was when you were referencing driving around listening to certain news stations or top 40 music or whatever, and all the stories that are in those songs, is that's all largely negative programming for the most
Hmm.
part. It's misery loves company, really, I think is what that could be categorized as. Or Henny Penny, the sky is falling.
Any version thereof. Yeah.
And the longer we're willing to tell ourselves those stories or listen to those stories, and keep in mind again that somewhere between 82 and 95% of the mind doesn't know what's real and doesn't know what's not real, and it's going to believe what it hears, and it's going to have a reaction to that, and then that's what we're going to feel
So
until we
I
tell
have two.
ourselves consciously that that's not what's really happening.
I have two questions. Um, like again, this was just as you were the things popped up for me. Have you asked her why she's retreading her experience? Um, First off, and if I need to, do you want more words about that?
Sure.
Um, so when I refer to retreading, this is a big world, and it's a big planet, and there's a lot of people on it, and there are so many things to experience, and yet we tend to retread in our lives. We either retread where we live, we retread our jobs, we retread our relationships. Now, some of that is a result of what we've been talking about, core vibration. If you don't change your vibration, you're going to continue to repeat and create the same things over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But as a part of getting conscious, because my first thought is, why would she go back to a job that she already had? She left it for a reason. Good, bad, or indifferent, she chose to separate her energy from that environment for what for her was a very good reason. It was a learning process. Again, it's in a continuum. It's not in a vacuum. So the choice to leave was the result of many decisions that led up to that, probably over a decade or longer, that brought her to that place where she made that decision. And now she's going back on her own decision and wondering why it's not working and why it doesn't feel good and why it's tough. I'm not saying that there's not a good reason to be there, because it's possible that there is a good reason, and she's learning that, which is this evolution of get conscious about the process.
Right.
You apparently missed a whole bunch the first time around, because now you're going through step by step by step by step, and you don't like it. Well, how do you get to where you want to go if you don't know where you've been? How do you do that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that struck me was, it'll come back. Darn it. I didn't want to lose it. I should have written it down. But it was the idea of retreading and then it was something you said was it'll come back. Sorry.
Well, we are in agreement that there is no going back. There's only going forward. And that's one of the big T truths that we've talked about many times in our podcasts. And we have talked about that in this case that I was anecdotally sharing with everybody, and hoping that I'm doing it with enough anonymity that there's no, violation of confidentiality here. That
absolutely.
That there has been specific rework done in job description and playing a different role so that the past cannot repeat itself. And part of that is just the fear of the unknown, which could be part of, do I really want to play and show up in this new way in this organization? And but there really has been a tremendous amount of healing that she knows that she's done, and the couple know that they've done together, that the board just doesn't know because it's actually happened fairly quickly. So that just takes a little bit of time for that to balance itself out.
Sure. Yeah.
But the main message was she's listening to old tapes and old core beliefs that no longer serve her, and as a result is feeling the way she's feeling because of listening to that crap. So she has to change the station. So I remember. I might suggest that jazz station that you were talking about.
Yeah, I like that. The other piece was an acknowledgement, and this is more general than specific to the individuals you were talking about. The thing that can become now, how do I want to say this? There is no doing it wrong.
Right.
There is what I did before and what I'm doing now. And I did what I did before because that's what I knew, that's what I understood, that's what I believed, that's what my circumstances of my life said. That's what I'm doing right now. You can, and we do often judge that place as the bad place, and this is now the good place. And what I'm trying to get at here is the idea that none of it is wrong. So in the moment that you recognize you're doing that thing where you're listening to an old story, it's not, you fucking idiot, why are you doing that again? It's a moment to stop and go, oh, I didn't realize I'd never seen those patterns before, or I'd never experienced that continuity of experience in that way before. That's fascinating, and it's amazing. And wow, look at how much I've done to keep that story in place. Because once you recognize it, all of a sudden you see all the underpinnings, and you see all the strings, and you see all the and you go, holy cow. The critical point is recognizing that it's actually a point of joy, because it's a point of discovery and clarity, as opposed to a point of judgment and a point of you're not a good person and why are you stupid. It doesn't, that's not going to forward your energy. It's not judging the fact that you're there. It's acknowledging the fact that you're there. It's appreciating the fact that you're there, because you could, If you didn't do the work, you couldn't be there. So the unearthing is actually a gift. The unearthing is, in seeing the story, is actually an incredible gift you're giving yourself, because now you just became 96.2% conscious instead of 97.3% conscious.
Right.
Right. Right. And so I again, for the listeners and the viewers, I want to clarify that it's the normal thing in the human experience is that's a negative. It's an abuse point. It's a point of putting myself down or a point of abusing myself, instead of a point of uplifting myself and acknowledging myself and taking the joy of that discovery. So that was the piece I was thinking of before. So thanks for letting me interject that.
That's a good piece.
So where are we with this? This has been an amazing conversation so far. Loving it. Good topic, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah. Well, let's just do a quick little review. We started off with the idea if we could get people to acknowledge and admit that we do have what we desire right now. We've created this. We've walked into it. Every step we've taken has led us to where we are.
Can I clarify that? I'm sorry. Can I clarify that a little bit?
I don't think so. Of course you can.
So your words were, can you say your words again?
That we acknowledge and admit that we have right now what we desire.
Yes.
We've created this.
I'm going to say not that we have, but that we are experiencing what we desire.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think it's a very different place. You may not have or have not what you want, but you're experiencing or not experiencing what you desire.
Okay.
Differentiation, I think, is important because one's about energy and one's about, I mean, they're both about energy, but I mean, one specifically is about an energetic state or space, where the other is about the minutia, the detail.
Okay. Yeah.
Food for thought.
It's good food. For me, have what you desire is more like a noun, and it's materialistic. Like you have this job, you have this car, you have this thing, which in turn would create an experience. So if you just cut straight to the experience, then that works too.
Cool.
And that if we're willing to say, well, if what I'm experiencing is really not matching up with what I'm telling myself I really want to experience, then what needs to change? And what needs to change is going inside and looking at the core belief systems about self and about what you value, what you think you deserve, what you're worth, what you're afraid of, what you're willing to be courageous and have new experiences with. It's all that will then bring you closer to the things that you say you want to experience, and then being able to set that in motion, which is very, very challenging.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I think the work of it is challenging because we tend to be so mired in, and some of this is it's not about fault. It's about the way of the world we live in. There's a lot of it that is just we don't have control, and we're trying to. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm trying to pretend my way out of what I was going to say because I lost it. So I'm going to stop pretending and let you carry on, and I'll pick it back up again in a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to pull a Jim Case for a moment. I'm going to be brave and bold and be transparent. That was a compliment, by the way.
Thank you. Okay. I'm holding the table just in case.
So over the last decade, there have been a myriad of projects I've taken on and paths that I wanted to travel, that I told myself I wanted to travel, and have even spent vast amounts of money for me in self-funding a variety of different projects, one of which was all-electric, full-scale off-road race car, first of its kind, and blah, blah, blah. And spent years creating it, funding it, promoting it, racing it, whatever. And it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere in where I thought it was going to go and what I wanted to do with it. And I was consciously telling myself I wanted to go have these experiences. And that largely was ego in wanting to have more thrill and maybe notoriety, or maybe even the idea that we could make more of them and market them. And this was going to be my new shtick or my new thing. But my soul spirit said, you know, that may serve the planet and may serve humanity in some way, but it's not where your real heart is. It's not where your real true joy and motivation comes from. And that's really more in being a leader and helping people love and enjoy themselves more, and help healing relationships, and being more kind and compassionate, and being an ambassador in that way. That's really where both my head and my heart, when those line up, that's really where I want to be and where I am. I am having the experience that I want to have. It's not out on the race course somewhere.
Can I ask you to attempt to give a little more specificity to how you went from the electric race car to the space you're at now? Connect the dots for the listeners a little bit so they can see what the migration was, because you didn't wake up one morning and go, no more car, I want this. This has been a multiple year evolution for you to come to this place. And it didn't start with the car, but I'm using the car as the example because that's a big one.
Yeah.
Are you able to kind of connect the dots of how that evolved for you so that?
Sure. And I think by maybe talking about a couple more of the projects, or a couple more of the this is what I desire ideas, that will become more clear to me, and being able to articulate it in a way that would convey an answer to your question. For many years, I've been talking about, I've created workbooks and have enough experience and ability to get up and present in an audience of my peers in promoting continuing education workshops that would be recognized by the Board of Behavioral Sciences as qualifying to give continuing education credits for people wanting to renew their license. And it would put me in an audience of my peers that would really define for me an area of expertise or a reputation, because once you publish something or you start teaching something, then that's what you get known for and what people expect from you. And I've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and I love public speaking, and I'm good at it, but I haven't done it. So, you know, the reality is, for right now, it isn't my desire, and that's not why I'm doing it, even though I've told people, and I tell people it's what I want to be doing and it's what I hope to be doing. I'm not, so clearly it isn't. And what I recognized from that really more recently is, if I did that, it would develop a very refined box that I would find myself in that I don't want to be in. And what I really enjoy and what really brings most value and joy to me is I can be whatever I want to be in any given day, in what I'm reading, what I'm learning, what I'm exploring, what I'm experimenting with, that I'm not a known public figure, and I'm not somebody that has to keep performing the same way because that's what the audience expects. And I'm referencing what happened with Jimi Hendrix, led to his suicide. Was the guy didn't want to create another album that was like the album before the last one that he created, and he was continually trying to evolve and push the envelope, and his promoters and producers didn't like that because they couldn't stay up with him. Yeah. And they told him that his audience wanted the same thing that he did before, just a little bit different, so it's not an exact copy of it, but this is your thing, Jimmy. This is what you do. This is who you are. And he said, well, if that's what you're going to put, if you're going to put me in that box, I'm out of here. And so he left. And, so I recognize that as a truth, that if I published something, promoted something, started going on a circuit throughout California, teaching other therapists how I do therapy, I would very quickly find myself just in the minutia and the monotony of same song, different town, same song, different town. That's not me. I'm just so, you can't put me in that box. I will find a way out of that box. So that's the recognition I have of, I am true to my word, that I'm living and enjoying my desire of really not having to ascribe to anything and be anybody. I can be whatever I want to be on any given day. And there may be a time where that runs its course and I don't need to be that any longer, but it is where I am right now.
May I?
So if I did the electric car thing, then that's what I would be. I would be the guy that's supposed to be the expert on renewable energy and kind of the planet and battery technology and blah, 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 blah. And that's actually not really where my heart is.
Right.
That's just a thing that I did for a little while. That was a fun project.
Can I tie this to our theme, to our conversation? May I use your example?
Absolutely.
So, and again, we're isolating because the way you told the story kind of takes it as a chunk of things. So I'm going to use that chunk. Okay, so do you remember, and it sounds pretty clear, and I'll probably answer the question for you just because of what I heard. But so actually, let me do it this way. What I heard was you have a strong desire for certain experiences, adventure, creation, leadership. Those are all things you desire. At the juncture in your life where the car showed up, you knew you had a facility. You had the facility to make this thing happen, which in your mind was the how to get to what you wanted to experience in adventure and joy and love and all those things. And what you found is that, to the point that I'm trying to make about how desire inspires us, is that, so that desire, you felt that desire, and you said, because like all human beings, we all at some point go, this is how I'm going to do it. I did it with my business. This is it. Here it is. This is amazing. I can be famous. I can be amazing. I can do amazing things. And it can go into and our imagination can run wild with it. And none of that has to do with the desire. It's the ego's manufacturing of the environment that in its thought that it's helping you achieve that desire. And it's not, because again, remember we talked earlier, desire has a trajectory and then the ego gets involved and suddenly you're over here and you're not over here anymore. So you go, not satisfied. So you bring in another piece and go, well, if I add this piece, then I'm taking it to a whole other level. And now I'm really going to get to experience being a leader and being a thought leader and being all of these experiences that you're looking for in this thing. And so as it evolves, you realize that no, that how didn't work either. Maybe I should stop having this. Maybe I should stop trying to figure out how to get there from here and let my soul guide me to the experience. Because it's the experience I seek. It's not the minutia I seek. I seek to experience connection. I seek to experience being a leader. I seek to experience creation. The cool thing is that our limited brains don't grasp the fact that the potentials that we have are so far beyond anything we could even imagine that we don't stop with the hows to allow the universe, God, the great white buffalo, the energy of the universe to support the desire we've clearly stepped into. That's called getting out of the way. Let go, let God. There's a gazillion expressions that have been driven on this very thing. That's all about just be in the desire. I just want to feel this, and then let the universe unfold in front of you with all of these amazing things that you'll get to do that feel so organic and so powerful and so right and fulfilling all of those experiences at the same time, because that's what the universe can do. That our ego can't get there from here. Our ego can only satisfy the things it can identify, but then even then it's not it doesn't get to the desire. It only gets to the wants that are created out of its own cycle to survive. Because ultimately it's still its own desire is to survive. He wants to be a leader. I can help him survive. Yes. So the ego comes up with lots of great ways of how to do that. And so what you end up doing is having this major feeling and desire and not feeling like you're surviving. Because the two can't come together. They're two different languages.
Right.
So I'm loving this. I'm loving this, seeing how the arc of the experience, because where you are now, even from where I met you, just the level of ease that you've settled into in your experience, and it isn't easy. I'm not saying that your experience has been easy, but you carry a sense of ease that you didn't have 3 years ago. 3 years ago, it was a freaking intensity that was like, that would make your glasses dark because you were so focused. You were so, we're going to do this and this is going to happen. I'm going to teach this and I'm going to, and now it's sort of like, but that's the whole thing about why desire is so amazing. Because if you live in the desire, then everything can fulfill you, because you're not limited by what can show up. You can be a leader because somebody shows up in your world who has a problem that seems unsurmountable, and your skill set said, no, really, here's this dot, here's this dot, here's this dot. Let me show you how it connects to your experience. Boom. And suddenly they're like, what the? I've been fighting this for 40 years. How did you do that in a half an hour? Oh, because you're in the space of creation. That's what you do. That's the experience you desire. And that's how it shows up. And so I know that it sounds contradictory in some ways, because we're so used to, we got to pick a path and go. We have to do it this way, or I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to get my degree and be this. I'm going to go to school and be that, because it's going to satisfy my desire. No, it's not. Can I say that again? No, it's not. Because you haven't identified the true desire. Right. You've identified want as a result of the desire. Right. So, and I know I'm getting all excited, but I'm so excited to because I have the same arc in my own experience in my life. Where in picking things and doing things that I thought would get me there from here. And when I stopped doing that, I got there more than I've ever gotten before, and I get there every day because it's so satisfying to have all that experience. I'm not tied to how I experience it. I'm tied to that I experience it.
Right.
All right. I felt the sense of like I just sucked all the air out of the room. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna breathe some air back into the room here.
And now I'm just sitting with what you were talking and sharing.
Good stuff. I love this topic. Is just fabulous. It can go on for days.
Yeah. So I don't know how the desires.
So be proud of you, because you are pursuing your desires as fully and completely as you are aware of them.
Right. Well, some of the core desires that I am conscious of are that I want to experience love more than fear. I want to find a sustainable way to live my life that is more in harmony with the planet with regard to renewable resources. I want to give more than take. And I want to be able to share that with others, of the joys of that experience. And
that's a good start, but that's like level 1. Seriously, it's good. It's a lot of words about clarifying instead. And so as you do more of that, as we all do more of that, it becomes less less, I don't know what the word is. I got to find the word. Let's say it becomes more of a continually fulfilling experience and less of a grind, as
Yeah.
it were.
Yeah. This morning I was waiting for my physical therapist to get to her office so that I could do my physical therapy session. And I got there a few minutes early, and I was in the parking lot and was listening to a book on tape, and I had shut that off and was just doing nothing for a minute or two, if that's possible. Uh, and I had noticed across the street there was a tree. There were a couple of trees that were just ever so slightly uh, moving in the wind, and they caught my attention for some reason. And I got caught up in looking at the contrast between the branches of the trees swaying and the green leaves against the blue sky. And then I saw a bird fly over the tree. And then I saw an airplane fly over the bird and the tree. And I just sat there for a minute, and it felt like I wanted to cry for a moment, because I captured the opportunity that I was having to be on this planet and to be able to experience wind and gravity and flight and technology, all wrapped up, the technology from the airplane, all wrapped up in one experience. And it only lasted.
You know what we call that? You know what we call that? The moment.
Yeah.
You were completely in now. That's awesome.
And in that place, I could say that was absolutely the high point of my day. And it was just, cool. Having gratitude for being able to be in a place that I could appreciate what you might call simple things, but without that being heretical, or God might say, simple? Are you shitting me? You try to create that, dude. All you had to do was experience it. You try to create that.
Yeah, but to your point, you did, Blanche. You did. You created that moment because you were present to it. That's so cool. I'll be even more excited when you let yourself have the tear over it. because that takes it, when you can let that emotion, that's when it goes completely visceral, because then it saturates every cell, and you're just like, did I just see the most amazing thing ever? And you just go, holy man. And then you get to have another one a little while later, and it was so cool. So good. That's awesome. Love that. That's that is the juju. That is the desire manifest. That is a moment in perfection. And they never get tired. They never get boring, and they're always ridiculously fulfilling. It just like, love that. Love that. I have them over the dumbest things in the strangest places, and it's just mind blowing. It's just so cool. Michael sometimes looks at me and kind of goes, okay, you're having a moment. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Let me try to define this for you in a way that you can grasp what's going on right now. Like, yeah, whatever. Dr. Jeff, you're the best.
Well, thank you, Jim.
I so enjoy you, and I enjoy this podcast, and the chance that we get to share this together is just awesome.
I agree. I appreciate you too, Jim, and the sometimes opposing and sometimes complementary views are what make it interesting, that we definitely acknowledge we don't have to see it the same way. We're all having different experiences, and they're all equally valuable and poignant. It's just good dialogue, and hopefully people enjoy this and want to continue to tune in, and we'll see where this goes.
Absolutely. So take a minute, everybody out there, and where's your vibration? What do you desire? Even if you just let that 2 sentences run around in your head for a day, just what am I feeling? What's my vibration doing right now? What do I desire right now? I want an ice cream. Okay, that's a want. What do you desire? I want to feel that safety and comfort that comfort food brings. I want to experience, the desire is I want to experience whatever that is. What is that? And that's how we get more conscious. We go, and for some, it's very frustrating in the beginning. You go, I don't know why I want it. Well, then sit down and shut up and figure it out. That's your work. That's the work is right there. It's that moment of, what am I desiring? What does that feel like? And not judging it, not condemning it, nothing. Just going, oh, okay, cool. See where that goes. Step 2. But great topic. We appreciate you all out there very, very much, and appreciate your eyes and ears, and more and more as we dive more deeply and as we expand and explain and go into all these things and peel this onion as best we know how to do. We hope there's some value there for you, and we know. I get value out of this every week, and I'm running my mouth, so I'm loving that.
I do also, Jim. It's definitely a highlight of the week for sure.
And another good one. Shall we say good night to our friends in the airwaves?
Yes, we shall. I love the way that you offered a challenge there at the end to everybody to just ask themselves what they desire, and to also be aware that we're living what we truly desire. And if this is not what you want to be doing, then you have to go inside and ask those tough questions of what's holding me back, what are my limiting beliefs, and find somebody to talk with about it, helping you explore that if you're struggling on doing that yourself. But there's a point at which you can free yourself and then begin to resonate with the things that you truly desire. Like Jim said, the difference between eating the ice cream and just wanting the comfort. If you're wanting comfort, there's a variety of different ways to experience that other than ice cream. If ice cream is, and there's nothing wrong with ice cream other than maybe you've already had enough calories today and you don't need any more. And if you eat that, then the consequences of excess calories are going to, we call that weight gain. If you don't want that, then,
well, even more importantly, when you go to that place to find comfort, you're creating a new story. Mm-hmm. You're creating a story that doesn't serve you, because now food and ice cream become your comfort, and that's not what you're looking for. Your desire is to be comfortable in this vessel.
Right.
Ice cream will make you feel comfortable in the vessel for about 5 minutes before the stomach goes, what is all this dairy and sugar?
Right.
And again, like you said, we're not slamming any of it. I eat ice cream. I don't eat ice cream as much. I like frozen yogurt, but nonetheless, it's still that idea that,
What do you try? I love the challenge you threw out there of, asking all of us to really explore the specifics of what do we really desire, and to dig underneath what seems to be the obvious desire and to get to the heart of it. And then ask, what's keeping us? Why do we think we don't deserve that? Or why does that seem too scary to really step into that? Or who would I have to be? Who would I have to let go of? What changes do I have to contemplate in order to have that which I truly desire?
Even better. How do I need to shift to come into alignment with what I think I desire? What does that look like?
Got a hunch we're going to keep talking about this.
Yeah, I'm good with that. But until then, have an amazing day, night, afternoon, weekend.
You too, Jim.
Whatever. Always good chatting. And to the folks out there, thank you again. See you soon.
All righty. So long. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.